we can all collaborate and talk. And then we're going to end it with a live podcast. And again, I've been really surprised by Zoom video conferencing. The audio quality is pretty darn good, and it's acceptable for podcasts. So the Worship Summit is happening in less than 24 hours. It's your chance to watch live, engage, and connect. We are live on YouTube, and we are going to be telling you about Worship Summit Live 2.0. This is our second Worship Summit Live. This year, we're going to have live worship bands. What's up, Tess?
Oh, I don't think that was me.
Okay. This year, we are going to have live worship bands. We've got 7 different bands that are going to be providing inspirational worship music. You're invited to worship along and enjoy this awesome music. The way that the day is going to be set up, we're going to have 12 expert speakers talking about video communications, live streaming, and really church communication strategy. And in between each speaker, we're going to have worship bands from churches around the world really sharing inspirational music in about 2 to 3 songs in between each speaker. So we'll have Christ, the Central, a Christ-centered church, Springvale Church, Keys Vineyard Church, the Life Christian Church, the Downtown Church Worship Live from San Diego, and many more. So I'm so excited about the live musical performances. I should mention that your house of worship can win a live streaming PTZOptics camera. So you can enter to win. You must be watching the Worship Summit live in order to claim your prize. So don't forget to get your free tickets, because that's the only way to get access to our breakout sessions. So it's going to be a full day of education with a surprising amount of inspiration. And I'm so excited to have all of these people here. We've got a great Facebook group with over almost 5,000 churches that have been joining here. And you can see here there's almost 4,000 members in here, churches from around the world who are live streaming and helping each other learn and grow together. Now, the important thing to know about Worship Summit Live is they'll be live streamed to YouTube and Facebook. And let me know, Tess, how our Facebook stream is going, because I had some issues today and I want to make sure everything's working.
Okay. Keeping an eye on it here.
I think Facebook is getting a little overloaded because the internet is kind of crazy. But we'll be live streaming to Facebook and YouTube, and then we'll also have a Zoom video conference breakout session. So folks, after each of our expert presenters are done presenting, they will be available for one-on-one communication where you can get in these breakout sessions and hear the detailed questions. So we'll really have almost 2 days of education going on. Now, our leaders that we have are worship leaders, and many of them are pastors. Many of them are experts in the field. One of my favorites is Jake Goslin, the leader of Churchfront, who is a worship pastor from Colorado. And he's going to be talking about how his church has transitioned from, everyday worship services they set up in a school gymnasium each week, which they can't access anymore, how they're live streaming from a studio and keeping folks engaged. Tess, if you want to mute everyone, you can do that in the participants area. You can mute everyone, and you can choose to not allow them to unmute themselves until it's time. So go ahead and learn how to do that, because you're going to need to do that tomorrow, I'm sure. Dr. Barry Hill is the author of Mixing for God. And Dr. Barry Hill is really one of the leading experts in audio production. He's a doctor. He is a professor at a local college called the Lebanon Valley College in Pennsylvania. He came to our studio here for the first Worship Summit. His presentation was so great, it was widely syndicated on churchleaders.com and many other websites. I can't remember all of them, but it was so great. It was shared all over the world. And he's going to come back, and I don't want to say dumb down the message, but I asked him to really go over the basics, bring our volunteers up into the 21st century when it comes to church audio. Now, Dave Dolphin is known as the Practical Pastor, and he's going to be joining us and talking about how to cultivate and craft your message when it comes from preaching online as opposed to in a group setting. Katie Alred is going to be talking about building your church communication network using Facebook and other online methods. Owen Hemseth is a member of Downtown Worship Live from San Diego. He will be performing our halftime show. Terry Wilhite is a communication strategist from Alabama. He's part of our Alabama Power Hour. He's going to be joining Tom Sinclair and Katie from Alabama from the 1 to 2 o'clock hour. And they're really going to talk about communications down, I don't want to say communications down south, but he's going to bring some really good Southern style education and strategy that I think we can all benefit from. Michael Upshaw is the president of Livestream TV, and he's going to talk about how to accept donations online with your church. More importantly, he doesn't even like calling them donations. He likes calling them contributions because that's what they really are. And it's going to be those unique and smart strategies, perspectives on how churches can increase their online contributions from their online congregations at this point, which are so important. It's the lifeblood now of many organizations for the near future. Matthew Davis, our lead engineer, will be joining me, helping you guys learn how to build live streaming systems that are not just good enough, that are not just okay. We want to help you build a live streaming system that you can be proud of, something that you'll benefit from years to come and have fun with. Your volunteers can understand how to use it. It can become a tool for good, helping you spread the message of God. And we're both very passionate about helping to build something that you can use for years and years to come, and kind of help you skip some of the possible mistakes that you might make when you're trying to put together a live streaming system really fast, really cheap, and it's just not probably going to turn out the way that it should be. Stephen Ballast is really the industry's leading expert in OBS, open broadcaster software, really widely used in the house of worship market, and he's going to be doing a deep dive on what you need to know to master OBS. Seth Haberman, the digital pastor, is going to be talking about Pro Presenter and how to use that awesome software to project up lyrics in your sanctuaries and include those lyrics as overlays on your live streams. Then Tom Sinclair is going to be talking about his experience live streaming at his church in Fairhope, Alabama. Now, little tip on live streaming. Hello, Stephen. Hello, Max. I'm so excited to have you guys. Really excited to jump into a conversation with you all. I wanted to mention quickly that my book, Helping Your Church Live Stream, is now available for free. We will ship this to any church in need who wants to get started live streaming. So this is a great place to get started with your education. Attending the Worship Summit is a full day of education. And I am fairly positive you're going to come home invigorated. You're going to want to innovate your church's message and how you can use church communication technology. And it's going to be awesome. But I want to leave you with something that you can give to the pastor, you can hand to your volunteer, you can keep on your bookshelf and reference so that you can extend the learning experience and really have some of these really powerful messages sink in and help benefit your church. By the way, we talked about how you can win a camera. You can enter to win that at worshipsummit.live. And we talked a little bit about how everyone wants it good, fast, and cheap, but that's clearly impossible. Even if it's good and fast, it's probably not going to be cheap. Even if it's fast and cheap, it probably won't be that good. And even if it's good and cheap, it probably won't be fast. And we're all being asked to act fast, right? 49% of the churches out there today in the United States, surveyed by Church Production Magazine, said that they do not have any live streaming systems. So some of these folks are actually putting up a smartphone and live streaming their services. And this church in particular, I cannot believe, is using toilet paper. I thought that was like a rare resource. That's like a rare commodity right now. You got to save that toilet paper for where it really counts. But it was used here to prop up a live streaming phone. So we want to help you make a live streaming system that you can be proud of, something that's well designed, something that you can use for years to come. But we understand we have to start with what you have and then grow into what you want. So high level, in this presentation, we're going to get right into this Zoom party in a second here, but high level, there's public broadcasts, which have the maximum outreach. We've got YouTube and Facebook. And then we've got private meetings, which have the best opportunity for collaboration. And right now, those in-person meetings are so important, and I don't want churches to forget about them. It's easy to say, all right, we're live streaming to YouTube and Facebook. And hopefully your church is listening to the comments and, receiving prayer requests, receiving donations, and everything's going great. But in this time of need, I believe, and keep in mind, most churches have less than 200 members, right? I believe that a Zoom video conference is a great way for folks to communicate. So now that families can communicate in a private way, but also with their neighbors, with their friends, and see everyone's video feeds together. And I think it's something where that maximum amount of collaboration is important. And as we navigate this new world, what I want you to think about is the public sphere and the private sphere. Because churches are generally private spaces. But as soon as we start live streaming them, we are now making them more public. So yes, it's nice to have a public worship service available on Facebook and YouTube, because now we are able to transport folks who might be at a hospital, they might be on the other side of the world, they might really need the message of God. We can deliver that to them directly through Facebook and YouTube, and it's totally free, which is awesome. That live streaming service is free. But we can also have private congregation meetings, Sunday school teachings, and then even small breakout sessions. So I think this is something that people need to think about. The live stream is probably the first place to start. Get that message out, get it on YouTube and Facebook, and it will expose your church. It will create that window into your church for the world, and that's really incredible. Now, the video conference side, I think, is something that a lot of churches aren't focusing on. They aren't paying attention to this part of it. And this part is really important. This is the part that allows people to connect and collaborate before, during, and after that worship service. If you bring on the Zoom meeting and the video conference part of this, now you can have breakout sessions. So you can have small teams and groups and organizers and volunteers and Sunday school members break out into their relevant meeting groups after the full service is done. So it becomes more like a real in-person experience, but all done digitally. Along with that, it's interesting to note that you can embed Zoom directly into your website. We just posted a blog about this. I want people to know that that's possible, because now people don't need to necessarily download the Zoom app. They can go directly to your website and use Zoom. Finally, Facebook groups, online forums, things of that nature. You should try to get your worship service and your messaging into a private group, like a Facebook group, because then you can take the conversation further and it can go beyond just Sunday and go all week. Now, a couple ideas. One thing we talked about on our Stream Geeks channel is hosting a virtual Zoom party. This is a super fun way to bring Zoom into a video conferencing software and live stream it out to YouTube and Facebook. So we've got our live streaming software here. We're using vMix. You can put your pastor front and center, kind of the way I've got it set up here. And then you can have your Zoom meeting inside of your live stream, just like this. So it's very cool. It's very easy to do. And it's a great way to get people involved. Now, I should mention really quickly that for those of you that are watching and are wondering why they can't get into the Zoom meeting, the password is 1992. Just so you know, because we have a password on it, because we're worried about people just jumping right in. Now, on the flip side of this, you can pump vMix back into Zoom or Wirecast or OBS. And this allows you to give everybody on the Zoom call really cool, high quality experiences. Now, think about this. Your pastor will probably want to have an in-ear audio system. They'll probably want to interact with participants. They need to hear what people have to say. But that's so much better than a live broadcast just to YouTube and Facebook. In this scenario, maybe not always, but it's nice for the pastor to be able to listen to the families that they're supporting out there, hear what they're going through, and offer them advice. Now, at the Worship Summit, it's going to be a great example of us sharing what we're doing. A lot of churches can see what's happening right now. There's going to be a live stream on YouTube and Facebook. We're going to have a Zoom conference where you can get breakout sessions with our expert speakers. Of course, that will be password protected because we do want to be mindful and not have somebody who shouldn't be in there broadcasting something that is not appropriate. It's been happening, especially everyone's at home right now. And then eventually it will end up on demand on YouTube and Facebook and maybe Slack and different places where things can be shared. So before we get into our breakout session and we jump into this Zoom party, which we're about to do, I want to share a couple things about Zoom, because if you don't have a password, inappropriate things could end up in your conference, God forbid. You can also set up a waiting room, and that's optional. You could do one or the other or both, but the waiting room allows your worship leader to manage who enters your Zoom meeting, right? It's kind of like that person at the door who is handing out the service bulletins. So you can do one or the other there to kind of manage who gets into your meeting. The other thing you can do, and I asked Tess to do this, and we're almost ready to unmute everyone, is you can mute all participants. You can mute all participants on entry. You can or cannot allow people to unmute themselves. If you mute everybody and then not even allow them to unmute themselves during your service, you can lock the meeting completely. And I love this idea because it encourages on-time attendance. And then, of course, you can always use a unique meeting ID. I would not suggest using your personal meeting ID and live streaming it like we are here on YouTube or Facebook, because then people will always be jumping into that meeting room. Finally, I'm getting to the end here. Live audience interaction. We want you to interact on Facebook and YouTube, comments, people online. In fact, I need to do that right now. Hey, Todd, how's it going? Good, happy to see you. Hi, Chad saying, again, the password hash, the hash should have to be cracked. So be mindful. Maybe Chad could join the Zoom call and tell us what that is. The password you used to sign into your computer. Sounds like there's some interesting stuff going on. This is the meeting ID, and then the password is 1992. Our audience is so technical. I love it. Chad, if you have a moment to join the Zoom meeting, I'd love to hear from you about what, as far as being super secure, we can do, because in these times, we really need to help people become secure. Managing the social media comments can be done by a worship pastor, and a worship leader, and they can show those to the pastor, maybe on a confidence monitor. Hi, Quasi. Good to hear from you. Good to see you here on LinkedIn. And live interactions. You can have a Sunday school quiz. You can have a pop quiz. You can have live trivia, and you can put that into the Zoom meeting. And I think it's a really great way to do a lot of this stuff. Now, finally, you can put your Zoom meeting on your website and host meetings with up to 300 families who don't even need to download the Zoom client. And then I wanted to mention this. A lot of people don't know this, but you can control PTZOptics cameras with Zoom. So if you have a volunteer or a worship leader who's at home, the pastor can give someone remotely, a volunteer, anyone, control of their PTZOptics camera through Zoom. And then from anywhere in the world, you can have that person operate your camera. So very interesting stuff. I'm going to take it away and go to our Zoom meeting. And Tess, you can unmute everybody now. Allow them to unmute themselves. How's everybody doing? Say hi.
Doing well. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Paul. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
Paul, how you doing?
Good to see you. How's it going? Does everybody want to introduce themselves and say where they're from?
Sure, I'll go. Steve Kanacki from Final Focus in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania.
Hi, Steve.
Good to see you guys again.
Jay Lira from Colorado.
Hi. Jimmy, you said?
Jay.
Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
Glenn Weork from Des Plaines, Illinois.
Hi, Glenn.
Hi. Gaurav Agarwal here from India.
Hi.
Hey, Paul, it's Kyle. Calling in
Kyle.
from Windham, Connecticut.
Thank you for joining. And I see Julia's here. Hi, Julia.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing? In West Brandywine, Pennsylvania here, St. Peter's Parish parishioner.
Thank you for being here. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to jump into a podcast. And Tess is going to record the podcast. You guys can ask any questions you want about live streaming, worship technology, presentation technology, and we're going to do it. So you ready, Tess?
Yes.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna record now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the post-show podcast. We just had an awesome live show talking about Worship Summit Live 2.0. It's a full day of education and a surprising amount of innovation and inspiration. We are going to have worship bands from all over the world, Christian bands talking and streaming and playing music, but we're also going to have over 12 expert speakers talking about church communications, video production, live streaming. It's a time when video communications is so important. And this specific conference on April 2nd, happening tomorrow, is so important to help churches stay connected with their congregations, spread the message of God. We have a live Zoom party going on right now. I've got Glenn, James, Kyle, Tess, Julia, some other people joining us. They're going to ask some questions. They're going to be part of our podcast today. Let me start with you, Tess. Let me ask you, you remember Worship Summit 1.0. It was a fun day, a full day of education. What are you excited about for tomorrow with Worship Summit 2.0?
I think that the speakers this time, first off, we have some new speakers. I think that they're going to be bringing a unique perspective to things because of the situation that the world finds themselves in. So I think that a lot of the content is going to be a little bit more relevant to what a lot of houses of worship are experiencing right now and some of the challenges they might be facing.
Yeah, let's just, for the podcast listeners, let's just quickly go over our expert speaker lineup. I'm so excited to have Jake Goslin, the leader of Churchfront. He's from Colorado, and his church usually meets in a school gymnasium. They can't go to that school gymnasium anymore. It's shut down. So he's going to be showing us their kind of makeshift studio that they've built to live stream and still play music and be involved with everybody. We're going to have Dr. Barry Hill, the author of Mixing for God. He is a huge inspiration in the church audio community. His presentation in Worship Summit 1.0 was so popular, it was syndicated online in Christian magazines and write-ups. There was one on churchleaders.com, and it was just so great to hear from him again and expand on what he's already taught us is going to be amazing. Dave Dolphin, the worship pastor from Cherokee Hills Baptist Church in Oklahoma City, is going to be talking about crafting your online message. Katie Alred from churchcommunications.com is going to be talking about church communications. Owen Hemseth is going to be doing our halftime show with Downtown Worship Live in San Diego. Terry Wilhite is going to be talking about community communication strategy from Alabama. Michael Upshaw, the president of Livestream TV, is going to be talking about how to generate donations and what he calls contributions for online churches. We have our lead engineer from PTZOptics. Sorry, trying to get through all of this. Stephen Ballast, who is the online OBS expert, open broadcaster software, the world's most popular live streaming software, and Seth Haberman, the digital pastor, who's going to be talking about presentations, worship presentation software, how to display lyrics on your live streams. And then finally, Tom Sinclair, the ultimate streaming idiot, the founder of his church, Grace Anglican in Fairhope, Alabama, is going to be talking about how to set up a live streaming system that you can be proud of, a live streaming system that can hopefully skip some of the maybe bad technology purchases that churches might make that aren't future-proofed and can't be used in the future. And then, of course, I'll be there kind of running the stream behind the scenes. But I just wanted to mention that because all of those speakers are going to be what makes this happen. But I have to say, the 7 to 10 worship bands, I don't remember the full number, that are performing tomorrow are going to make it even more awesome and more passionate and inspirational, I think.
That's a great lineup, Paul. And really quickly, I just wanted to remind you of two things. You told me to remind you about like showing some sort of app.
Oh, yes.
And are we doing a giveaway?
That's right. So we do have a live giveaway, and we are going to show our brand new iOS and Android PTZ camera control app. Let's do that right after we wrap up the podcast. I want to give our Zoom Room audience a chance to ask their questions live. So I'm super excited about that. If anyone has any questions or comments about why they're excited about Worship Summit Live, go ahead and shoot. Otherwise, Tess and I will just have a brief little podcast conversation about why it's so important for churches to watch live tomorrow, enter to win a live streaming camera, and connect and engage. I forgot to mention that our new book, Helping Your Church Live Stream, right now we will be shipping this for free to anyone who is interested. So anyone in the United States, we will ship this book to you for free. And I really think that getting the book, this is about a 200-page book, will really help, or 150-page book, will help you forward your knowledge and your learning in worship streaming and technology. And it will be a great complement to the full day of learning tomorrow at Worship Summit Live.
Paul, just to start things off, I know that there is a question in the Zoom chat from Glenn. How many can talk at once? Our choir would like to sing online.
Oh, that's an amazing question. To be completely honest, I am not 100% sure how singing online would work with Zoom. I would really love to be part of helping and testing with that. Zoom is very much real time. So Zoom will, if the internet's slow or you don't have great internet access, Zoom will degrade the video before it degrades the audio. So it really is like an audio first experience.
130%.
Yes?
I have did it with 130%, a Zoom meeting.
You did?
Yes, I have did it. I did it for every day in India. Like we did it for BNI.
Wow. That is awesome.
Paul?
Yes.
Yeah. In Zoom, you could go into the advanced settings in the audio. Zoom automatically sets the audio for voice only to optimize the voice. So you could shut those off, and then you could have, like, if you were playing musical acoustic guitar, or like he wants to sing with the choir, then it'll set those settings will turn off and it'll sound a little bit better.
That is a great idea. So optimize the available bandwidth that you have, because every person in your Zoom meeting consumes some bandwidth, right? So the bulk of the bandwidth that is consumed is via video. The audio is obviously a lot less bandwidth. So for as fun as it is to have everyone's video on the screen, it might be better from an audio quality perspective, if you're having the entire chorus sing, is to have everybody, wear headphones, maybe would be a good idea if they have them. And then because they can really hear well, and then just no need for the video necessarily. Everyone can focus in on the audio. That is so interesting. And I'd love to hear what you're doing on Sunday. Maybe if you want to send me a link, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, we'll do. We're going to try to test it before then and see what happens.
Wow. Very cool. Well, that is an awesome idea. Another question that I know has been coming up recently is, how do we handle the Easter holiday, right? Easter is coming up in just a week or two. Next week is going to be the Holy Week, and Easter's coming up. And what are we going to do for Easter when we can't celebrate in person, where large gatherings are banned in many of the places in the world right now? And so that's going to be a key focus that we're going to be discussing during Worship Summit Live. And I've asked all of the presenters to address this issue in different ways. How do we communicate with our congregation online during the Easter services? How do we live stream a celebration that people can be a part of during the Easter celebration? How do we communicate using Zoom video conferencing? How do we get music together? How do we perform together? And I think that's a great question about singing together using Zoom. How is this all going to work during Easter? And that's going to be a main focus of Worship Summit Live 2.0. And, I'm giving it a lot of thought. The other thing to think about, which I want folks to address if they are able, is how are you going to include the retirement homes, the senior living centers, who simply cannot leave their homes. And many of the seniors are, they're not digital natives, right? They're new to using iPads and iPhones and computers and making sure that Wi-Fi is connected, or connecting their computer to the internet using Facebook, using YouTube. That's new to them. So how do we connect our live streams and the performances and the experiences that we're trying to share with seniors? And I think that my presentation with Matt Davis tomorrow will definitely cover that. How do we use the cable internet system that's in place at senior living centers? How do the cable TV system, for example? So we'll be going over a lot of that, and I'm really excited about it. Hi, how's it going? Thanks for joining. Do you have a question for us today?
Yeah, I actually had a question how you set the security password on Zoom call.
I'm glad you asked. And Tess actually handled that today. Essentially, when you schedule the Zoom meeting, there's an advanced tab. And there's a couple things to consider. We talked about it in our presentation today. I'm glad you asked so that the folks listening to the podcast can get filled in on this. You can set up a password, which is it's a number. It's not no letters, just numbers. You can do like an 8-digit number. You can do a 4-digit number. Tested 1992 today. I think that a great number is like when your church was founded. You could use that number. So it's a little education and a little fun inside joke with everyone in the congregation. But that's how you set up the password. You can also set up a waiting room. And a waiting room essentially notifies the host that someone wants to join, but it doesn't let them in necessarily. Because you could check them out. Is it some random person that's going to stream something inappropriate into our Zoom meeting? Let's not let them in. Is it someone who's part of our church congregation that we want in? You let them in. The other things to consider when it comes to Zoom passwords and Zoom meeting participants is that you can obviously mute all participants, and you can remove their ability to unmute themselves during a worship service, during an important Easter celebration, and then you can give them back the ability to unmute themselves when two-way communication is appropriate. So there's a lot of controls there. The other thing to think about too is probably should not share your personal meeting ID with people that you don't trust and don't know. Because then when you have another meeting in your personal meeting ID, somebody pops into that mistakenly or on purpose, but during an important meeting, that's distracting. So consider using that unique, randomly generated Zoom meeting ID, which is what that is right there, that 28419-812. And obviously the password is not a big deal. Tess shared the password on Facebook and on YouTube. And look, we've got multiple people joining in. You were able to join to ask that question. It's not hard, but it's important in these times where everyone's on the internet and you can't trust everybody, especially when you're live streaming it to the world. So that password's important. Here's a question coming in.
Secure the Zoom is,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
how secure the Zoom is as we send our data on a cloud?
How do you record your meetings to the cloud?
Yes, when we record a meeting on a cloud, so what is the security on the Zoom?
Well, to be honest, I am not a huge expert on security when it comes to Zoom. I know that they have been under some public scrutiny for the way that they've been handling their end-to-end encryption. They got in trouble for passing data without telling people directly to Facebook. Now that they've grown so quickly, people have really been looking for the security holes in Zoom, and a few have been found. I am not an expert on security, but from a basic meeting room management perspective, as the host, I highly suggest using some of the tools that we've discussed so far in this podcast. I do want to mention something from Otis here. He's saying, so would it be better quality to have an audio input via an audio interface or PreSonus then into Zoom? So you can get pretty good audio quality into Zoom using like an audio mixer or an audio interface that has USB output, you can bring that into Zoom. And again, we talked a little bit in our live stream about providing in-ear monitors or headphones for folks who really need to hear what's going on clearly in their ears. But yes, you can have really good quality audio. I think if you want to have the absolute best quality audio, I like to bring our audio into vMix, Wirecast, or OBS, a video production software, where I can add virtual studio plugins, VST3 plugins, where I can do noise suppression, where I can do compression, where I can do dynamic EQ, right? Equalization of the audio, and really get professional quality audio before I send it to Zoom using a virtual audio cable. Now, I know that's a complicated process. On our Stream Geeks channel, we've written down some of the how-tos on that and made videos about it. But that's the way to get the best quality audio into Zoom.
Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, like, if I could add to that, you could also just have a USB mixer, and usually all those have they're optimized for podcasting or doing stuff online. So you could add a USB mixer to that.
It's a good point, and it's really probably the easiest way. It's simple for me to use vMix because I'm already using that for my video production side of things. And I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but one thing a lot of people don't realize is you can bring Zoom into a live streaming software and live stream a Zoom party on Facebook and YouTube. And then on the flip side of that, you can take a really awesome multi-camera video production software with graphics and overlays and social media comment integration like we're doing here, and pump that back into Zoom for your private meetings. So there's a lot of stuff you can do there, but I agree, a very simple way to get higher quality audio is to use like a podcasting mixer with really nice quality microphones that you can use those, EQ features and the noise reduction features and the compression features that kind of make your voice almost sound like radio host, which can be good depending on if that's what you're looking for.
So Paul, I wanted to know the format of the current show. We just come in and ask questions, or how does it?
Yeah, no, go ahead and ask questions. So we're recording a podcast right now. We're going to finish up that podcast in about 5 minutes, but it's great to have good questions from the audience. And then we're going to do a live giveaway on our show and close the podcast. And then that'll be the end. So if you've got questions, go ahead and ask.
Oh, here's
Which
a
camera you suggest for a Zoom call?
hold on. Who's going first?
Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Paul, which camera you suggest for a Zoom call?
So right now we are using the PTZOptics cameras for this call. And I mentioned this actually in the live stream, so I'll say it again in the podcast, which is kind of interesting. PTZOptics cameras can be controlled in Zoom. So you can right-click the video of a PTZOptics camera being used in Zoom and request remote camera control and actually be able to pan, tilt, and zoom the camera from anywhere in the world during a Zoom meeting.
Any camera with microphone?
You can also add a microphone into the PTZOptics cameras. There is a 3.5 millimeter audio input that can be used with a line level microphone. Usually like a Rode microphone that has a battery inside will work.
Oh. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, just a couple minutes, guys. So any more questions, fire away.
So in terms of training volunteers or workers, what's the appropriate age to learn this live streaming technology?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. I'm not sure if you were here in the beginning, but I wrote a book called Helping Your Church Livestream. And right now, our company is committed to shipping these books to any church that would like them in the United States. You could download it for free as well. And it also comes with an audio book. So, I mean, I would say you're looking at about 10 to 12 at the earliest age. But these kids are gamers. They know how to use an Xbox controller. And my recommendation is if you have a PTZOptics camera, connect an Xbox controller to it and let them use the Xbox controller and maybe gamify the experience, if you will. Rate them on their production quality and say, that was a 6. We need to get you to an 8, and if you get to a 9, then we're going to take you out for pizza. Obviously, I think kids are much more technologically adept than we give them credit for. And I think that younger and younger kids can do this. I was working with an 18-year-old female in California, who won an award for how great her production quality was. And she actually won our PTZOptics scholarship. So 12 to 18 is a great age to learn this stuff.
Does it only have to be an Xbox controller? Can it be another controller that can be used?
So as of right now, we support a USB Xbox controller that works with, you can get them on Amazon for like $20. You can also use an iPhone or an Android or an iPad. And that's a great thing. And I was going to show that today. Let's see here. If I'll do a little live demo, because I know folks on the podcast can't necessarily see this, but I'm using my iPhone to control the camera, and kids really like that too. And the nice thing about this is that if you have a kid who really wants to help with the live streaming, you can actually have them use their own smartphone or tablet and actually control the cameras. And if you would like to control the cameras with your smartphone, you can sit down next to your wife in the pews and still be the cameraman without having to be all the way back at the AV booth. So there's some interesting things that you could do with the technology available today. That's why I do think if you're old enough to read a book, you're old enough to learn the vocabulary and have a productive conversation on how to use this technology. And I think audiobooks are really good. There's an audiobook included with helping your church live stream. So if the kids that are 10 to 12 to 14, if they want to listen to the audiobook while they're driving to church, they're going to start hearing those words, learning the vocabulary. They're going to pick it up pretty quick, I think.
In terms of budget, did someone else have a question? Or wait, he's Mickey Mouse.
I had a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, on Zoom, on the Zoom end, right now I could only get my USB cameras going to recognize it. I use the Blackmagic Deck Lake mini recorder capture card into my PC, and Zoom doesn't recognize it. But I also am using it on OBS, so I don't know if that's the problem. And the workaround I found was I had to put my webcam on a different laptop and then bring it back into OBS via the NDI using the desktop capture. That's the only way I got it to work.
Well, so here's some things to think about. And you were opening up a lot of cans of worm there, and I don't want to open up too many of those because we're going to wrap the podcast up in a second here. But you opened up some interesting questions. One is generally with a capture card or a PCIe capture card or device, even a webcam, you generally should only use it with one software at a time. So if you're using it with OBS, use it with OBS. If you're using it with Zoom, use it with Zoom. Now, Windows 10 is getting better at using a single webcam with two softwares. So it's possible, but just generally speaking, one at a time. Now with OBS and vMix and Wirecast, they support a virtual webcam out, which is how we bring our production software into Zoom. So use the virtual webcam output feature of OBS with your webcam, and it'll go directly into Zoom properly. As far as NDI is concerned, NDI is a great technology for bridging video over IP. So I'm glad you're using that. Keep using it. Keep learning about it. There's an in-depth chapter in the book about how to use NDI because it does require a little bit of networking knowledge. So I'm not going to dig too much deeper into that because we're going to wrap this podcast up now. We're going to do a live giveaway, and then we're going to answer even some more questions. So thank you for listening to the podcast, everybody. I hope you get a chance to join us tomorrow at Worship Summit Live 2.0, available anywhere in the world with an internet connection on YouTube, Facebook. Don't forget to get tickets so Tess can send you the password to get into the Zoom breakout session. Thank you for listening, everybody. This has been our post-show podcast. Okay.
All right, good.
We did it. All right, so let's do a giveaway real quick. You have to be watching live to enter the giveaway, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And you guys can fire questions away at me, and I'm happy to answer them.
In terms of budget, for getting a bare bones minimum for with one PTZOptic, what is the recommended budget for a starter?
So, I mean, you can get a PTZOptics webcam for less than $100. So, I mean, you can start there. The PTZ cameras, and one of the reasons why these are so nice is because if you put one of these cameras in your church, you can now zoom into 10 different locations, right? And if you get the USB version, you can control it through Zoom. So you don't even have to be in the church in order to zoom it and pan it and all that stuff. So these start at about $1,600.
Sorry. Drop my phone.
So less than 2,000, you can kind of get started. I mean, you do still need to buy a microphone. Most churches already have an audio system in place. So you need some type of computer, a PTZOptics camera, the USB versions. Like I said, like this is the USB version. You can plug that directly into your computer. You don't need a capture card. You don't need anything fancy. Plug it right in via USB, and you can control it over Zoom, which is kind of nice. Now you should plug in an Ethernet cable to the camera. Okay, and some of the cameras you can do power over Ethernet to power the camera, but you may want to do an Ethernet connection because that's what allows you to control the camera with like your smartphone or your Xbox controller. And then we're just about to release some $500 IP NDI cameras that are going to be really interesting. That will definitely lower the price point a lot. So our first winner is Tajmar Thompson from Fresno, California. I'm going to pop that into the YouTube chat and then share it on the screen.
Hey, Paul, I had another question.
Sure.
On tomorrow's show, do you know if any of the speakers will be talking on networking?
That is a good question. And I don't think so, to be completely honest with you. If you ask Tom Sinclair, he may. But the chapter that you're going to want to read in my book, let me find this here, is 12. Chapter 12 is 14 pages on the basics of IP networking. And I wrote this. Have you read that?
Yes. The reason is some of my fellow friends that I know, engineers, they're at home and they're controlling the live stream at home, and they're using OpenVPN, and they control all the cameras and everything at home. And I just wanted to see if they were talk about that on tomorrow's show.
You know what? I will write that down. So remotely, I think that's a great idea. Remotely controlling.
It's called OpenVPN.
OpenVPN. Controlling PTZ cameras. So one of the things we are going to talk about is how to control a PTZOptics camera through Zoom remotely from anywhere in the world with no need for a VPN. But we'll also cover OpenVPN, and I'll ask my engineer to add that in there. So I'll cover that in our session. That's a great idea. Rachel Walsh from the United Kingdom is our next winner. So hopefully she's here. But yeah, I will add that. I will add that to my personal presentation because that is so important. So many churches right now are trying to find solutions that they can control from home because everyone is forced to be at home. So I will add that to my presentation. Rachel Walsh.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
In terms of pulling off a show like this, I know it's not a church question. How many team members? I know Tess is there and yourself. You say you had an engineer in the background too?
So I'm glad you asked because actually nobody is here. I am the only one here. And the reason why I'm the only one here is because of the coronavirus, right? We can't necessarily have people here. So right now, there is nobody here. So I'm glad you asked though, because it's something that I cover in a lot of our shows about how I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And basically I have a little touch screen over here. So I've got obviously my smartphone, but I've also got this touch screen here. And when I touch this touch screen, these are all the different camera inputs. So I touch here, boop, goes to that camera input. I touch over here, it goes to that. And this, by the way, is a good view. That is basically vMix on the left and then Zoom on the right. So I'm doing a desktop capture of Zoom, bringing it into vMix. And then this right here is a vMix web browser input. I have the ability to look at my social media. So if I click this button, boom, it shows a Zoom. So I basically can control the chat messages from YouTube and Facebook, and I'm asking them to build in Zoom. And then I can just remove it just by clicking a button. So I have full control over my vMix system directly through here.
You can run another giveaway winner, Paul.
Okay.
And also, the Eventbrite said it was sold out, which it's not. We're not sold out. So I just went on and re-upped that.
That happened to us last time too, didn't it?
Yeah. If you had trouble getting tickets, go right back on to the link and it will work now.
Oh my gosh, Tess. We sold out. Luca Casal from Italy. Wow. I hope Luca's here because literally Italy is having a tough time right now.
When you said it's sold out and upped it, did you add more numbers so that there can be more people, or I'm not quite...
Yes. I expanded it.
Yeah, I guess we had like 1,200 or something for the amount of tickets that could be added. And
you have to pick a number. And this is a virtual event, obviously, so we can accept as many as the streaming platforms will allow. But we exceeded our expectations, so we had to raise it.
Good job, Tess. You've been getting the word out there. Nicholas Reynolds is our next winner, and I'm going to keep calling them. Someone has to be here to claim the prize. This is going to be the same as tomorrow, so make sure you're here, guys, tomorrow, because if you want to win, that's the way to do it. Carl Weaver. Carl Weaver is from Fort Washington, Maryland. Well, that would be easy for us to ship to him right across the bridge.
This question has probably been asked a lot of times. You know your up and down bandwidth?
Oh, right now? That's a good question. And that really is a good question. So let's see, internet speed. So I usually just Google speed test. And right now we have 150 down. This is a business connection. So, and there's nobody here using it. So I do have like all of our business's power here, and I've got about 20 up. So right now we're streaming to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn, but we're using a cloud-based streaming service. So I'm just streaming 5 megabits to the cloud, and then it redistributes it from there in the cloud, which is really nice. We're using Go Easy Live. But I still need to save bandwidth for stuff like Zoom, for stuff like just receiving the internet. Tucker Orton. Is Tucker? Oh, no. Okay. Tucker
Carl
Orton.
Weaver is here.
All right, Carl. Yay. All right, Carl. Who do you want to spin the wheel? Ha ha. Of course, it will be me. Usually, you guys get to choose between me, Tess, or Michael, but I'm the only one here.
So Tess is remote working from home? Is that what?
Yes, Tess is working from home. She's able
working from home. Luckily, still able to have a job. Very fortunate.
All right, I'm going to spin it. Here we go. This is for Carl Weaver.
Hey, Tess, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can Paul or you put the link up for where the tickets is and also how you can get the book on the chat?
Yes. I will share in the Zoom chat for these purposes, but I can also put it in the YouTube chat so everybody can have access to that as well. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Carl, you won a free selfie stick. Congratulations. We will send you one of our awesome selfie sticks that we have. Okay. All
And
right,
Paul,
guys. Yes.
Paul, just for people on the line, if you try to put 2 USB PTZ cameras, I have both 2 of your cameras. I'm actually in Oxford, PA, so I'm right down the road. I guess you're still in Westchester, right?
Yeah, that's
you guys
true.
are okay. Okay. And if you put 2 of the cameras on there, if you try to go to the 1080 video, the one camera will start jumping. I do have an i7. I asked Tom, I actually reached out to Tom a couple times about how to keep that from jumping, the jittery stuff. I'm using vMix. I love vMix. vMix is fantastic. It's a great tool. I started off with another program before that, and then I fell in love with vMix. So that's a great tool. So what's an option of doing if we want to have high def on both cameras without the jittery?
So you have a laptop?
No, we actually have a desktop. It's an i7 8th generation.
Okay, so you have a desktop computer, and it has inside of that computer is what is really a PCIe card for USB inputs. Okay, so most USB PCIe cards, which are basically USB inputs to your computer, are not built for handling, a lot of traffic on all of the PCIe lanes. So as soon as you start doing 1080p, now there are, by the way, PCIe cards that are built for cameras that every single lane is individual. So they all have individual high-speed lanes to the motherboard. But many stock PCIe cards basically are less expensive to produce because all of the lanes combined into one, and there's a bottleneck. So
that makes sense.
And the reason why I asked if you had a laptop is because a lot of times laptops have one PCIe, one USB bus on the right and one USB bus on the left. So simply by unplugging the 2 on the left and putting one on the left and one on the right can sometimes fix the solution for a laptop user. If you have multiple spots on your desktop computer that might be different USB lanes.
Yeah, I tried to do the front and then in the back, and I also tried because we have 7 USB inputs. So I figured that I tried that. That's what Tom's suggestion was to me. Do you suggest any good cards, PCI cards that would be able to handle 2 different cameras like that?
Yes, there are. StarTech makes one. I cannot remember the exact part number, but I think we've written a blog about it, so you could probably search online. The other option too, there's a couple different things you could check out too that I think you should look into. One thing to know about it's USB 3.0 ports, correct?
Correct.
So with USB 3.0 ports, it is possible that if you plug a USB 2.0 device into it and then unplug it, and then plug a USB 3.0 port into it, it has automatically kind of reduced its power intake to save power.
Yeah, I tried. I knew you're going there, and we did go into the settings and changed all that too. We're running the one camera we're running 50 feet away from the computer itself, so it's a extender on it, and that's what I think is causing us the problem. Now, if I take the one camera and bring it down to 720, I get no jittery.
Yeah.
As soon as I bring them both up to 1280, I get the jittery.
Yep. And I get it. It's definitely 100% a bandwidth issue with your USB card. And it seems like they're all bottlenecked into one. There is one other thing you could try, which is going to sound crazy. But if you use a USB 2.0 cable, what will happen is it will actually compress it on the camera. And you do need to enable the H.264 compression. But if you use a USB 2.0 cable instead of a 3.0 cable, it will default to, you can still use 1080, but it will compress it a little bit more to fit through that pipeline.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay. Well, if there's any other questions, I am happy to answer them. We're still here. We're live, and we're going to, in fact, you know what maybe we'll do? I think what we'll do is we'll stop streaming, Tess, and we'll just stick around on the Zoom call for just a few more minutes.